This is the Leipzig Zoo. It keeps 865 different species on 260,000 square meters of land. The zoo especially focuses on endangered animals, and it is split up into 5 parts to represent different environments, entertaining more than 1.8 million visitors each year. There are many diverse species to look at, and although their environments are remade in a very realistic way, some cages are very small. Although the zoo is highly developed in animal keeping, some animals like these alligators or penguins are kept in the small habitat. While there are a lot of these small cages, some animals are fulfilled with a large outside environment surrounded by plant life and social contact with other familiar animals. There are divided opinions about the way that the Leipzig Zoo functions. Some believe that the animals are made for us and our entertainment, and as the zoo protects them, the animals have a good life. There are also others who think that this is not morally acceptable. All day, they are exposed to cameras and loud voices, which is very stressful for them since none of this happens in their natural environment. The organization of PETA has said, "For animals, zoos are nothing more than prisons. The narrowness and unemployment make many of the inmates mentally ill. For the protection of species, zoos contribute nearly nothing, because species like tigers, apes, or bears cannot be reintroduced to nature at all, thanks to the human race."
The zoo also keeps a wide range of endangered animal species to protect and breed them. It works with a lot of different companies, such as European species programs, the International Species Information System, and the Stiftung Artenschutz. Breeding these animals leads to split opinions. Dr. Jörg Junhold, the director of the Leipzig Zoo, and Jens Hörmer, who is high up in the hierarchy of the zoo department for breeding, will gladly share theirs and inform us about the advantages and priorities when it comes to endangered animals.
Dr. Junhold, guten Tag. Leider ist die Ausbildung bedrohter Tierarten eine sehr schwierige Angelegenheit. Zuerst einmal muss ein geschützter Lebensraum vorhanden sein, in dem die Tiere ohne Bedrohung überleben können. Erst dann können genetisch reinblütige Tiere behutsam wieder an ein Leben ohne den Menschen gewöhnt werden. Das kann viele Jahre dauern und ist sehr kostspielig. Der Leipziger Zoo hat immer wieder Tiere, wie zum Beispiel Säbelantilopen, für Auswilderungsprojekte zur Verfügung gestellt und wird es in Zukunft noch verstärkter tun.
Many people are angry and believe that they keep animals for the pleasure of others and don't pay attention to their needs. It is viewed that way because some species, like the fish and alligators, are kept in tiny habitats which are much less than their original place of life. However, others argue that the animals are in safe hands with professionals who make them a priority. Some species like the rhinos, lions, and elephants are kept in a very large and realistic environment. The zoo also does a great job of keeping and breeding endangered animals. There are many positives and negatives. It is not only exotic animals that we keep for our amusement. In fact, there are more than 16,000 dog owners in Leipzig alone. The fact that humans think they can treat other species in any way they want is proof that we are unaware of the ignorance we possess. We have all the information about past disasters, yet we recreate all the racist and sexist beliefs in another problem. This time, it is species related. While a lot of people might say comparison with the Holocaust is extreme, there is a lot of similarity. Both include the suffering of beings under more powerful beings. We patronize animals because they lack some of the characteristics we do, yet we also lack some of the characteristics that they have. Many shelters are forced to use gas chambers to end the animals' lives because they cannot afford the drugs to put them down without pain. The animals can take up to 20 minutes to pass. However, this is not the case everywhere around the world. When When slavery was present, there were divided opinions about it. It was only the extremely moral and informed people who did. Many years later, almost everyone rejects the idea. History repeats itself. We should have learned by now. We are lucky because we live in a technology age where communication is achieved by the push of a button. This is an opportunity for us to achieve what many previous generations didn't, and we have to do so using education. Different to keeping animals for pleasure, activities such as animal testing in the medical and cosmetic fields are argued to be cruel and horrible. But many, including Stephen Hawking, believe that it is necessary for the human race. Hawking said, "Computers can do amazing things, but even the most powerful computers can't replace animals in their experiments in medical research." Animal testing has existed since the 3rd century BC. Greek philosophers such as Erasistratus and Aristotle were probably the first people to experiment and dissect animals for scientific purposes. The basic ethical reason behind someone's decision to support animal research is that they believe animal lives are not the same as human lives, and therefore do not deserve the same rights as humans. Pro-animal testers argue that some cosmetics and healthcare products must be tested on animals to ensure their safety for us. Many think that animals have no rights, therefore it's accepted to use them as objects to experiment on. However, it is also extremely expensive, and it costs over millions of euros compared to alternatives. A lot of this money could have been used for constructions and programs that could be needed more. As a study of OPED has shown, animal testing is not credible and can be very inaccurate. Quote, "Many drugs that appear safe and effective in animals fail in humans, or cause significant harm and even death." However, OPED describes the species is about as likely as a coin toss in predicting the effect in humans. Some believe that animal testing for medical purposes is still necessary because it has saved countless lives, although cosmetics and beauty products are not important for our survival. This is pointless and does not benefit anyone, also looking at the fact that cosmetics can be made without animal testing. Animal testing has played a decisive role in nearly every important breakthrough in the last decade. Smallpox has been stopped thanks to testing on animals. In some countries like the UK, there are strict regulations and rules that companies must follow in order to perform their testing. For example, there are many ethics committees that make sure that the potential benefits outweigh the suffering which the animals tested endure. We share 95% of our genes with a mouse, which is the main reason to why they are tested. Also, there are 450,000 people in the UK that are suffering from type 1 diabetes. They rely on insulin, which was developed thanks to experiments on dogs and rabbits. However, dogs and rabbits are not the only ones who suffer traumatizing experiences. Every year in the US, more than 105,000 primates are abused and killed in laboratories because they share biological and psychological characteristics with humans. This means that primates can suffer in similar ways to us, which unfortunately makes them prime targets for medical testing. In their natural habitats, primates may travel for miles, searching for a variety of foods, socializing with family and friends, and enjoying nature. However, in laboratories, they are packed into tiny cages with barely any space for them and with little or no supplies for leisure. Sometimes they are given cheap plastic toys, scratched mirrors, and a slice of an apple or banana. Research shows that 90% of primates in laboratories have abnormal behaviors that are caused by the physical abuse, psychological stress, and social isolation. Many go insane. Some even tear out their own hair or bite their own flesh. When they are imprisoned in laboratories, they are subjected to painful and traumatic procedures such as invasive brain experiments, separating babies from their mothers to cause a trauma and to test the harm it caused. We are aiming for worldwide bans on the use of great apes and on primates taken from the wild. Although primates are one of the prime targets for medical testing, goats have recently been tested more often than usual. In July 2015, the major antibody provider Santa Cruz Biotechnology owned 3,202 goats. And according to the US Department of Agriculture, or the USDA, those goats have disappeared. The USDA are one of the largest antibody providers worldwide. However, the company has been mistreating their goats for a while.
Was this really what you want?
Some animals suffered from coyote bites and massive tumors. This problem has been solved by using cells that are genetically engineered to make antibodies. Apparently, many companies have switched to this method instead of using the animals. Nevertheless, animal testing has had a bright side. It contributed to many life-saving cures and treatments. However, if we only used animals for appropriate experiments, animal testing wouldn't be such a huge, escalating problem. We use animals to test drugs which are not necessarily safe. If we test animals for our benefit, they should be treated in a humanly manner, which is almost never the case. They are kept in inhumane ways, and testing them is cruel and mostly unnecessary. For example, testing for cosmetics. Quote, without animal research, polio would still be claiming thousands of lives each year. This quote was said by Albert Sabin, who is the developer of the vaccine that cured polio.
I'm a volunteer. It's not a job. It's not a paid job. I'm just a volunteer to help the dogs in Cyprus, especially because they have their condition as dogs or animals in Cyprus is not pretty. It's not something. It's not advanced. They look down at dogs and animals. They don't take them as part of the family as in North Europe or in Europe, basically. So my job is to help the dogs to get them out of pounds, because if we don't do that, they're going to be put to sleep in 2 weeks. They give them only 2 weeks if they're not claimed or adopted. So we help the dogs to get out of pounds, help them find forever homes, and that's basically what we do. In general, yes. In Cyprus, they do know, and when they dump their dogs in the pound, they know that their dog has only 2 weeks. If lucky, 3 weeks. We keep pushing as volunteers and as organizations. We try to push more time for the dogs. Yes, basically they do. They do in Cyprus. Of course, you have some people who don't, and they are always surprised about this fact. In North Europe, like let's say, like in Germany, Denmark, UK, those countries, they get surprised that they're given only 2 weeks. So it's a yes and a no, I can say. It does, but the condition of the pounds varies.
Yeah.
If you go here to a pound, which is a shelter, they are protected. They have it very well, the dogs. They have really nice, warm areas. They're well fed, taken care of. Yes, of course, there are shelters all over the world, but the condition in Cyprus of a pound is horrible. Actually, it's not all countries is illegal. It is legal. They wouldn't do it if it's illegal. But some countries have taken a step forward, and like India. That's what I read. Of course, has to be verified. They had a new law to forbid testing on animals. Go ahead. You test it on yourself. You don't need to use chemicals. Try to find another way of making makeup. It's not the animal's fault that a woman wants to wear makeup. The reason is cultural. Is when They believe dogs and cats are dirty. Of course, they believe dogs are dirty. So they're not allowed to be in. They have to be out. And they are told that dogs or animals in general don't have a soul. So if they hurt a dog, the dog doesn't feel.
Who tells them that?
They know it's in pain, but it doesn't feel. The dog or the cat is the thing. The priests tell them that animals have no soul. Not every priest, but this is a common idea. So they are raised to know that a dog is a dog and a cat is just a cat. And if you kill a dog, it's okay. So what? It's a dog. Because they're not fun anymore. It's all over the world, but it's typical Cyprus that they adopt a dog or they take a dog and for when they are puppies, and when they stop being puppies, they're not fun anymore. And puppies or dogs, you need to train them to be to behave properly. And they don't. They just leave them out. And if the dog starts barking, the neighbor will complain. And so, for example, and they drop their dog in the pound. They get tired of it. It's replaceable. It's a thing. It's like a chair. It's like a table. So that's why it's easy for them to give up their dogs. Yes, we have huge, unfortunately, puppy population is getting worse and worse. Now we're struggling with puppies. It's the season, apparently. It's terrible there. And even if you rescue a puppy, we have litters of puppies. There's a very well-known ugly illness called parvarius, that kills puppies. So even if you rescue a puppy, there comes this illness or the sickness, and you cannot protect it. It's very tough. It kills puppies. Exactly, because not the first vaccine won't protect them. Second vaccine won't protect them. Third vaccine, and that we're talking about 1.5 months later.
Yeah.
You start the vaccination and stretches, and we're always worried that we take day by day. Are the puppies fine? Are the puppies fine? Because if one puppy gets parvo, the whole litter gets parvo. Most of them die, if not all of them, because some puppies somehow they fight it better than others, but it's a terrible disease. Absolutely, because where do you start? You have to start somewhere, and the best place is, or the best people you can now teach is children. You're welcome, and good luck with the project.
Test.
Baby, clean. Once was a kid, all I had was a dream. More money, more problems. When I get it, I'ma pile it up. Now I'm broke, wonder bread, we get toast so fresh. How we feel, everybody gets this style with us. Once was a kid with the other little kids. Now I'm whipping up shows and the crowd going wild with us. Tell mommy I'm sorry. This life is a party. I'm never growing up. I'm never growing up. I'm never growing up. I'm never growing up.